This one's a doozy.
Perfect. Perfect.
Hey guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Ryan Styles Harris, and in today's video, your eyes do not deceive you. This is a Tekno NB48 2.2. It's my first Tekno vehicle of any kind that I've ever driven. So, you know, that's the best way to do it. Don't drive it, just buy it and then see if you like it. I have thoroughly enjoyed building this vehicle, outfitting it, and taking it to its first couple race days. Briefly, for those of you following along, if you're curious, let's do a very fast abbreviated version of the vehicles that I've had that have led us to this point. We started out with the TLR 8X platforms. They're a little edgy, hard to set up, not my favorite, so we sold them. Got into the hot bodies cars, and it was basically the same thing all over again. These rough and bumpy tracks that we have here in the United States, which I love. I love rough, bumpy, dirty tracks. It's tough to find fast steering and stability. It's kind of always like I'm either getting one or the other, and I can never have both. Then we sold the hot bodies cars, got into the team associated vehicle, the RC8B 4.1. And that car was better. Got through the choppy stuff pretty good, but still kind of not all of the stability that I was hoping to find. I still have that vehicle, it's not gone. But then our next one, in hopes to find something even better, is this one. I've been watching this particular car with the likes of Ryan Mayfield, Jared Wiggins, and a lot of the other factory Tekno drivers, and I couldn't help but notice this car has a very defining characteristic when it comes to having a lot of initial steer, a fantastic mid-corner, and then all the stability and exit corner speed that I would ever want in a vehicle. So I see watching these cars on the screens, right? Or in person. I said, you know what? Let's get one. Let's try it out. Let's make a video for you guys. And let's see if those fast Mayfield things translate at all to a slow, normal person like myself. Spoiler alert, they definitely do. So let's talk about this thing in depth. I'll get you guys some racing footage from two of the past events that I've done with this vehicle, and then, wrap this thing up. Starting with the car itself, how did the build go out of the box? This thing was surprisingly free. That's the very first thing I noticed when I put it together. When it comes to the movement of the suspension arms, the fit and finish of everything felt very, very good. There was no binding of any kind, and I was very eager to get it onto the track. I guess there is a technical issue in the instructions themselves. I'll put it up on the screen here. I forget which page or step it was. That technically it's telling you that it is step 5 and step 5, I think. These page identifiers or step identifiers are duplicated, but all the information is there. You just have to use a little bit of deductive reasoning based on the parts that you're seeing as to which step is going to be next. That aside, the build went great. I had no issues whatsoever, and I can give that side of things a 10 out of 10. As far as the mechanical setup that we put into the vehicle, I reached out to Jared Wiggins and I just asked him, hey, I'm going to be building this car. Are there any option parts that I need to put in it right off of the rip to kind of get close to the factory setup or standard setup that you guys run with the car? This is pretty standard procedure. It was the same thing with the AE car. A lot of the guys would go from the springs that came with it to a particular style of springs that they are racing with. Same with this. He said, yeah, we're usually running the yellow or orange springs at most of the tracks here in the States. And it was a little bit different. They run the 78 millimeter spring up front and the 73 millimeter spring in the rear. It's the first time I've ever seen somebody run a shorter spring in the rear. They did not tell me or give me the technical reason why they do that. My theory is that if the spring rate between these two are going to be essentially the same at full compression, the shorter one is going to rebound quicker, perhaps, because there's less coils. So it's going to support the rear end faster. That's my theory. You guys can correct me in the comments if you think it's otherwise. As far as what we put into them, I had 40.5 weight oil up front and 42.5 weight oil in the rear. Again, a little bit different. They're running softer up front and thicker in the rear. As far as diff weights, I don't think I deviated too much from the box setup. I went 7K in the front, 5K in the center, and 5K in the rear. They didn't really send me a setup sheet for any particular sort of starting point, so I kind of referenced a couple setup sheets between Mayfield's and Jared Wiggins to get some other fine-tuning placements when it came to my pill selection for the A, B, C, and D blocks, and then my link locations. Everything is pretty close to kit, or it was completely kit, so I think I can go ahead and put a setup sheet down below with kind of my summary of what I was seeing out there for what I ran at these kind of medium size, low medium grip tracks that I have here down in the Southeast in the state of Florida. Moving on to the things that make this car go fast and steer left and right, let's look at the components we have under the hood. Starting with this beautiful engine that I have thoroughly enjoyed running that was supplied by Alien Hobbies. This is a ProTech Samurai RM.1. This engine has the perfect power band of the stuff that I have personally used. It has a very nice linear bottom end and it just ramps up to a nice strong mid and top end. Some of the engines that I've used in the past had such strong bottom end characteristics that I'm not fast enough to hang on to it, and the grip levels that we typically see in Florida made it a little bit of a challenge to hold on to. So seeing this being a more linear, balanced kind of power delivery, I am thoroughly enjoying this engine. It is outfitted with a ProTech 4-shoe clutch, and on the backside it does have the Samurai ProTech 2090 pipe and header combination. Sliding over to the electronics, we have a pair of ProTech 170 SBL servos. These things continue to be very consistent and providing all of the steering speed and strength that I need. And would you look at that? This time I have a ProTech electronic switch right off the rip. No more hard plugging in for Ryan. We do have a ProTech battery in there as well. I forget which one it is, honestly. I just, at the time that I was building the kit, I looked at the one that was gonna be needed and I put it in there. It's all the information is linked down below in case you guys are curious about any of the build details for this vehicle. And lastly, making this thing look super cool, fast, and fresh is going to be this Raw Speed Nighthawk body painted by yours truly. And the rubber of choice at our most recent race day is going to be the Raw Speed Villains in a super soft compound. I've been enjoying these tires because they provide a very predictable, consistent driving grip level pattern consistency. I don't know how you want to say that. As you'll see in a minute here at one of my race days, when the tracks get really rough and blown out and there are some sharp edges and kind of like potholes around the track in certain areas, when you run a Mach 1 style tire or like a traditional J-Concepts Reflex style tire, they can be fast, but they grab those edges and it can kind of toss and turn the car and upset it, and I just don't like it. So these, whenever I can get these Villains to work, I thoroughly enjoy them. On this particular car, I run them with the tread pattern pointed forward all the way around, in case you were curious. So that's everything for the build. That's everything that's in it. It has felt amazing. I'm going to jump into some racing footage for you guys that you can kind of watch and see what's going on. And then when we get back, we will talk about the performance of the car and how it has felt and performed. So the first race weekend experience was the FRCC round. I don't remember. And it was up at Capital City, Lake City, Florida. Never been to this track before. The driver's stand felt like I was driving from the clouds. It was so tall. It was a little bit disorienting, but race day was a little bit of a disaster, not because of my car, but more so because my transponder decided, you know what, we're just not going to work very well this weekend. And I did bring it back up. So I was missing laps all weekend long, including the main. So Lance did an excellent job at trying his best to hand count me, even though that's not his responsibility. So Lance, thank you very much for giving me as much of a race weekend as I could with the faulty equipment that I was providing for you. So let's jump into this race. I believe we're about 9 minutes to go in this Nitro main, and I was somewhere in mid-pack, and I think the camera's going to pick us up here with a battle with Cameron Goff.
Just in front of Ryan Harris. Final podium position coming onto the front straightaway here. Ryan Harris in at number 5, just behind Cam. Back section of the track, Cam Goff. Working at number 4, Ryan Harris all over his back bumper here as they come down the hill. Here they come in through the middle section of the track at the double. Harris looking for a way around, up and over the double in front of the driver's stand onto the front straightaway.
This car, just a quick note, a little bit higher bite of a traction surface here, so it was pretty easy for it to bite you in certain areas. But this car was giving me a lot of confidence. I could put it anywhere I wanted, and it allowed me to race a little bit more aggressive in a situation like this, just because I knew that I could do what I want when I want.
4 and 5 very close together, only separated by 0.7 of a second.
Trying to be patient.
Harris is all.
This little section right here, this little kicker jump, you could jump this and land somewhere over here, but it was a little bit of a high risk, low reward. So I just opted to drive around it, just live to see another day. Maybe I'd miss out on that 1/10 of a second a lap, whatever difference it was going to be. But yeah, that's why we were doing that there.
All over Cam Goff here. Oh, Harris with a good line as Cam goes a little wide around the corner. Harris now moves up into the number 4. Cam Goff is still holding on at number 5 and final podium spot though. Here they come on to the front straightaway.
Driving a little bit like a goober, but
Ryan Harris coming across
doing
that
our
start
best.
finish line. Cam Goff, oh, Cam goes for a double at the end of front straightaway. Marshall right there to grab him. Here comes Sean Frazier down the front straightaway, holding on to the 6, 7 seconds back. Gene Hickerson still working at number 3.
Nice little whip right here and just tuck it right on that corner. This doesn't seem like that technical of a section, but this little thing right here was a pretty upsetting pothole. And if you found yourself in there, not only did your car get completely unsettled and unloaded suspension wise, but it was full of dust, so you would lose grip instantly. And it was a very easy way to lose probably close to 1/2 second a lap. But the alternative is try to jump this and land close to this. The downside there is that if you're too close, you would get stuck. This pipe would suck your car in and you would not be able to get off unless a marshal would come to you. So you had to have a lot of confidence in your car and its ability to just land right here and live to see another day. I didn't do it every lap, but the fact that I was attempting it is a sign of confidence for me, just knowing my driving ability, knowing the car, that was a good thing to see.
Kenny Setzer working at number 2. Trent Walker well out in front. Trent, Kenny, Gene.
A lot of these jump faces, they had some interesting developments because we've had a lot of rain in the state of Florida leading up to this event. The Track 2 crew did an amazing job getting this facility together and in the shape that we were able to experience. The slight downside of just being in Florida is you'll have these water runoffs and deformations that will happen to a track, and it's hard to get rid of them. So as a racer, you just have to know where these are and what your limitations are based on these things. So a little bit of some tough stuff to get around on the track. It would kick your car kind of funny from time to time, and you just had to be ready for it and try not to make a mistake based on that.
Cam Goff now up to the 4. Ryan Harris into 5. 17 minutes down, 8 minutes left to go.
That's Trent, the leader. I'm a lap down or 2 at this point. I know that. So it was interesting to kind of get near him.
Catch Ryan Harris when he
Crash
comes back
immediately.
around here. He missed the lap. We'll get that fixed for him. Up and over to double right here in front of the driver's stand. Here he comes across the start-finish line. Get that fixed for him here. Ryan Harris still holding on to that number 4. Cameron Goff coming down the straightaway, holding on to the 5. Now Sean Frazier right there on his back bumper.
And that's about all of the TV coverage that Danny Paz was able to get of me. Nothing too exciting there, racing in the mid-pack, but hopefully you guys could see that the car was very planted, very stable, and it did pretty well at the Capital City RC Raceway. So this is a club day over here at Lake Park. We had a phenomenal qualifying effort going into the main. We started TQ. Car was showing a tremendous amount of speed. I was very confident in this thing going into the event. Only thing that I was kind of like between was, should I go out on my big style pin tires, the Villains, or should I have gone with the Mach 1s, the reflex style tire? I think that the Mach 1s would have been faster, but harder to hold on to. So we went with the Villains, knowing it would be a little bit slower, but definitely safer in the rough stuff. So we'll jump into this and see how it goes. That was the longest down and quiet I've ever experienced. Gabriel Santiago, he's another fast Tekno kid down here in Florida, and he started right behind us. This jump throughout the day was very challenging. They had to fix it several times. It was hard to do this inside line, or kind of like hug this apex as tight as you wanted, because it was full throttle up the face of this jump in order to make it, which that's no problem. Why is that an issue? Well, as the race progressed, the cars would dig this area out right here and make a really bad G out. Kind of, I don't know if you guys are big into the moto stuff, but basically there would be a big section of dirt that would become missing as the race day would go on. What would end up happening is your car would bounce going up the face of the jump, making it very difficult to clear it consistently from the preferred racing line. So I get a little bit squirrely over this jump a couple times throughout this race. Weird little bounce over that jump. Not really much I could have done. I don't know if you guys can, if this translates, but my car is jumping like 2 times before we even get to the face of this first table back here. So 1, and then it kind of skips off the lip. The second one, these potholes haven't developed yet, but it's like right there. I'm jumping over that pothole, jump over another pothole, and then you jump. So very challenging surface that you had to have a lot of confidence in your car if you wanted to go fast. And then going into this corner, there was, you can't see it from this angle, but this develops into a really sharp edge pothole, and sometimes you hit it and your car hooks, and sometimes you don't. You kind of just had to wait and see what you were gonna get. Gabe, it looks like he hit it there and he's parked it on the pipe a little bit, and I think we're about to go by. Same thing with this section here. Giant sharp edge right there that if you hit it, you're flipping into the bleachers. This, when I talk about how this car has tremendous amounts of steering and mid-corner adjustment ability, if that makes sense, coming into this right here, I kind of gave it way too much steering and a little bit of counter steer, and then the car just drives out. It didn't do a donut. That's technically a mistake, like I overdrove the car, but the fact that I'm able to just give it a minor correction, and then it just says, okay, no big deal. Acts like nothing happened, drove to see another day. So that's not like a, oh my God, I'm as fast as Mayfield situation, but it's a, I made a mistake, and then I just did a natural instinct of a correction, and the car just did it and moved on. The best amount of compliance I could ever ask for in a potential worst case scenario. Kind of exploring a line here to see if it was any better. It wasn't, but you could jump. I saw that my car kind of like kept rotating a little bit, so I was like, you know what? We're just gonna jump this double on the backside of this kind of table, and I'm gonna square this corner off and see if I miss bumps. I don't. I hit a giant one and then almost crashed, but we didn't. Gave it less steering. Starting to see that G out. The front end of my car just went straight to the sky. This guy,
What are we doing?
I get a little upset. This guy, we're 3-4 laps into the race. He's already going a lap down. I don't know why people think that they're gonna suddenly race the leader when they're at least half a lap behind the next car in the race. I know it's frustrating if your race hasn't gone your way, but guys, let's not make everybody's race awful, including yours. Just give a little space and everybody's gonna be happy. Again, he was giving Gabe some rough time there. Gabe had to take some unconventional lines to try and get around him, and then we ended up coming together. It's no one's fault other than hit that sharp edge there. Gabe and the other car kind of come together a little bit. I tried to make a pass, wasn't the right time. This, I don't know if this translates, but this is just one of those moments where I come into a corner as hard as I want and I just steer it exactly where I want it to, and it just does it. Almost disaster, but the car just pushes through all of it and lives to see another day. Again, stability, in a not super fast guy environment, but the car is allowing me to continue on the race with stability and consistency. Driving a little bit like a goon there.
He was 27.7 around here for 27.9. Benton pretty quick to team in the first side. Stays all over in fifth. Hasselberg in sixth. Hello, 17.8. Philip was in ninth. 4 down, guys. 4 down. Lovely to
4 minutes down, I knew I was on a one pit stop strategy. I didn't know what Gabe was going to do, so I just wanted to get it as close as I could so that we could be there if we were going to get beat on pit strategy.
Oh, sorry, Gabe.
Definitely did not expect to close in that fast. I knew we were kind of close, but I had no idea that we were going to close a gap of, you know, 5 or 6 cars that quickly. It looked like he had caught that sharp edge and was just trying to save it, and I went in there really hot. We made contact. I let him go, gave him the space, and apologized.
Sorry, Gabe.
Really weird landing. I don't know. Maybe I could have whipped into that and landed on the gas. I tried to steer into it. You can see I turned my wheel, but it's like the car caught and then it just grabbed when it went the other way, and it just had a silly little tip over. So just a weird racing circumstance that maybe I could have avoided if I had more talent, but we didn't. The rest of this race, basically, it was just Gabe and I jockeying for position based on our pit strategy. And ultimately, I ended up having a really weird, unfortunate DNF. Actually, here, let me show you. This little rock found itself in here. I've never experienced anything like that before, and it was really unfortunate because we had worked ourselves up to a first place position after our first pit cycle, and Gabe was already working into his second pit stop. So based on pit strategy, I knew that we were going to win. We had a hot lap of the race, so I knew that the pace was there, but unfortunately the outdoor environment circumstances got the best of us on this one. Can't really fault the car for this. That's just a bizarre thing. Hopefully that doesn't happen to you guys. So that was our race day adventure at Lake Park. It was a success. I'm pretty happy with how it went. First tank of gas that I ran through this car, I immediately knew that it was going to do exactly what I wanted it to do. I wanted to have a lot of predictable steering, and I wanted that mid corner to be snappy, and I wanted stability on the exit. That all together is, like I've mentioned, sometimes too big of an ask for most of these low grip tracks and any of the vehicles that you can drive. This car scores high in all of those categories. Out of the box, I am thoroughly blown away at how good this car is and how confidence inspiring it is from the rip. You don't have to do any crazy top secret team driver setup stuff to get it to work. You don't have to drive it any particular way. This thing just does what you want when you want to, or not. That's another thing that I think can be difficult about 8 scale, is that a lot of times you feel like this is a relationship, a conversation that you're having with the car, and you're just hoping that it's going to go the way that you want. But you know that most of the time it probably won't. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I feel a lot of times when it comes to my relationship with an 8-scale nitro vehicle. This car, on the other hand, when you're in that mid corner and it's going through there exactly how you think, and then you go, oh, I wonder if I could get this corner to turn a little bit sharper. Oh, I hope it doesn't do anything crazy. So you give it that little bit extra steering, and then, oh my gosh, it steers a little bit more. And then mid corner gets even more aggressive. And then on corner exit, it doesn't punish you. It just says, oh yeah, okay, we could do that instead. No big deal. This is probably the most compliant, easy to drive nitro vehicle that I have personally ever experienced. And I cannot stress it enough that I don't have some sort of crazy hard, particular, only works at one track type of setup. It's so close to kit setup, it's ridiculous. And I don't think I've mentioned it up to this point. Tekno did not send me this vehicle. The only communication that I had with Tekno, and technically it's not them, it's just a representative of one of their factory drivers, was Jared Wiggins telling me to put these springs on here. That is literally it. Nothing else has happened for me to get this car where it is today. Sorry, getting a little excited here, going on and on about how awesome this car has felt. All in all, from building it, to putting all my goodies in it, to racing it at a couple different style tracks, what are my thoughts of the Tekno NB48 2.2? I think that this buggy is a phenomenal platform for anybody racing in the United States. On a traditional, outdoor, good old-fashioned track, this car is phenomenal. I can't really speak too heavily about it in a super fast high grip scenario, kind of like what we were seeing this year at the Nitro Worlds. It seems that maybe this car isn't designed to go race on a super fast, smooth, concrete level grip track. Not saying that as a slight to anyone that likes those style of tracks. So based on performance at track race day, I will give this thing, can I give something a 10 out of 10? It didn't do anything wrong. It did everything I wanted to. And I felt like the setup is very easy. It's consistent. Yeah, I think I could give this thing a 10 out of 10. Of the cars that I've driven, see at the track on a weekly basis, I really think this thing is a home run. I can safely say that. And Tekno did not cut me a check to do so. I'm curious if you guys have been on a nitro buggy chassis quest this year or over the past few years. Which one have you liked the most? And why have you liked it? Let me know in a comment down below. Have you driven one of these? Did you feel the same? Do you hate this buggy? If so, why? I'd be really curious. I'd find it very, very, very hard to believe that somebody out there picks one of these up, if somebody didn't really butcher the setup, and it didn't perform how it did for me. I'd be really curious. So that's going to be it for this one, guys. If you're curious for any of the goodies that I used in this vehicle, and if you're looking to build one yourself, I have linked all that stuff down below. Feel free to check that out. If you have any questions about my build that I didn't answer, drop them down below. Do my best to help you out. And that's going to be it for this one. Thanks for watching. Looking forward to running this some more. I'll see you at the next one. Peace. You guys want to know the real speed secret? You want to know the real secret to how you go fast on race day? Well, I don't want to say, but I'm just going to show you this clip, and then you'll know. Then you'll know.
Hold on, let me finish putting roll on your body.
So we're having like a re-inspection done. We had
I gotta get
Oh, you gotta mix it up.
Oh.
Yeah.
This is the secret sauce, how you go fast. Kenny's got nothing on this.
I invented that. Wow.
Yeah, get it in there. Hold on. Yeah.
Oh no.